Welcome back to another episode of the Think Global podcast. This is episode 50, and we appreciate you being on the journey with us. We are trying to get now to 2,000 subscribers. So what I need you to do is go ahead and click the subscribe buttons and make sure that you turn on all notifications. We're talking everything international, sports, basketball, travel, and all things amazing. We are here in the heart of Kigali at the O&A production studio, and we're producing more and more content for you to enjoy.
Think global, that's our call. Azomco leading, standing tall. Made in Rwanda, big ballers play. Getting it in, paving the way.
Today I have another guest that's coming on the show, Coach Zach Cave, coming all the way from the U.S. Nice. He's in town for the BAL. What's up, Zach? Welcome back to Kigali, bro.
Good, I appreciate you, man. Nice to see you.
Yeah, thank you for coming on the platform. We have a segment on our show called the World Call. No doubt. And that's where we give our guests 10 seconds to name off some of the countries that you've been to. All right? Yep. So right now we're going to put Coach Zach on the World Call. Ready, go.
Let's get it. Rwanda, Uganda, Turkey, Congo, Mexico, Guatemala, Ecuador, Italy, Belgium, Germany, if I haven't already said that.
Amazing. Yes, amazing. So another world traveler, because we are a global platform, we like to, share our experiences. We never know how that can be connected. So for our audience, why don't you just tell where you are coaching at the moment, and we'll get into more about the differences of international basketball and African basketball. But why don't you just start us off by telling them where you're coaching, what level?
No doubt. I'm this past season I was coaching at Benedictine Mesa. It's an NAIA school in Phoenix, right outside of Phoenix, Arizona. 2 years prior to that, I was at Seward County Community College, which is in one of the best junior college leagues in the country, out in Kansas. And that's where I really got to start recruiting internationally, and specifically Africa, in terms of bringing players, whether that's directly from Africa to the U.S. to come to college, or they were already in high school, but specifically focusing on talent from the continent of Africa to come play college hoops.
That's amazing, man. So there's so much stuff we have to unpack, because a lot of interest from young African players always want to go. They're in a circumstance, maybe they don't have a lot of exposure, maybe they don't have a lot of resources, but they know that the world is big. There's the NBA out there, there's a university out there. Why don't you just break it down in terms of college basketball, maybe like the top tier, right? And then we can go down to NAIA for what level that so they can understand.
Yep, no doubt. I mean, obviously right now, Division I, Division II, Division III, all within the NCAA. And then even there's levels within that, right? Yeah. Nowadays with the NIL markets and all that, you've got the now Power 4 conferences, and then there's levels within that.
Okay, so let me slow you down. So you're saying that the NCAA, the universities in the U.S., right? Yep. There's three main levels. You have the Division I, which is the highest level of basketball. Then you have a Division II, which is a lower level. And I found that a lot of the Division II schools are out in the rural areas. You don't really find it's odd to find a Division II school like in the heart of a city.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, maybe a few.
Yeah. Whereas Division I, definitely, there's always Miami, Los Angeles, and all these universities inside the metropolitan cities. And then you have a Division III.
Yep.
Yeah. So you have tiers of things. So you're saying within the first one, Division I, they have different conferences.
Yep.
Right. And so one conference might still be in the Division I, but they're not as big as, say, the Power 4. Yep. The ACC, the SEC, the Big Ten. So I'll let you go on from there.
Yeah, no doubt. Yeah, speaking Division I right now, there's levels to it, right? There's the low major, mid major, high major, and that's based off student population, student admission, but also then when you focus more specifically on basketball talent, basketball level, history of the program per se.
We'll say in entirety for sports.
Yes, for
because
sports.
Because college football is even 10 times bigger than basketball.
I don't know nothing about college football, man. It's a different beast for sure. But then also with that being said, just because you're a Division I school doesn't mean you have more talent than a really good Division II school.
I can attest to that.
Or like an NAIA school.
I can attest to that.
So it's just, there's levels to it, just kind of like there's levels to the leagues here in Rwanda, there's levels to the leagues in Spain, per se, and all that. And it's just, it takes time to kind of learn and know like what that is, and because there's a fine line. There's a really fine line from D3 to D2, D2 to D1, and then also again the NAIA and the JUCO levels as well.
And this whole, the reclassifications and these, it's very, very just. I mean, you look at, you say you don't follow college football, but Indiana was a team that's this year, and basically they said, okay, you no longer have to be. Before when I was coming out of college, you had basically 5 years of eligibility. But you needed to play 4. So if you had a medical red shirt or just a red shirt year, you could stay in the program for 5 years, but you can only play for 4. Now it seems like with the transfer portal and all this, like kids are just going to left to right. You go to one school, you transfer to the next school, et cetera, et cetera. But they also ruled out the age regulation where before I think it was like, I don't know, 22 or 23 that was maximum, that a person could be before they participated in the collegiate sports. But now, you have these 28 years old and 30-year-old guys who actually, now they're actually going back. How do you feel about that? Do you think that hinders the game, or you think it makes it more competitive, or?
I think this past year of college basketball was at the Division I level was, from a consumer standpoint, watching it was the most talented, most exciting year of college basketball that I can remember. And I think part of that is because of they're making more money. They're making more money. They're able to they're able to go global and recruit globally from the pro levels across the globe for the younger guys. They're able to pay like you're talking about. And then again, you were talking about the age. There wasn't really a restriction on that. Just now recently, within the past couple months, they've tried the NCAA has launched the 5-and-5 concept, which is just going to be, you have 5 years to play within 5 years, and that clock will start when you graduate high school or when you turn 19.
And it doesn't matter if you transfer, they're restricting how many times you can transfer?
They're going. I believe they're going to give you a one-time transfer, but I'm not 100% sure.
I've heard it also is one time willingly, and then there's one time again if a coaching change.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So that's fair. Yep. I'm okay with that.
No doubt.
I'm okay with that. So you mentioned recruiting, and scouting for African talent.
Yeah.
In your experiences, what African talents have you seen become successful in the U.S.? Like, is it big man, or is it guards, or what kind of is a prototypical player that maybe some of these schools are looking at? Right.
I think the misconception of African hoops is that it's only big men. I think and I think behind that you see over at the Kigali Arena, Joakim Noah's sitting up there, Ian Amini's sitting up there. You got all the big guys, but then. Now I think more and more, just with the athleticism and the ability, it's like you're getting wings, you're getting guards. You talk about Jean-Jacques, talk who came over for the summer league.
I like Jean-Jacques' game a lot.
Yeah, absolutely. You're thinking about some of these dudes. Kuminga, he's a wing from not too far from here. Like, you're seeing these guys like at the highest level. You're seeing those guys have a lot of success, and like I said, I think it started with the whole conception that like these people are tall, so let's recruit them as the big fellas. But then again, I mean, it's just like in terms of the recruiting world, you want to flip as many rocks as you can, find the best players, like whatever you're specifically looking for as a program. If you need a shooter, you don't need to just look in one spot.
Yeah.
There's shooters here in Rwanda. There's shooters here in Ecuador. There's shooters in Europe, right? For say, there's bigs in Africa, but there's bigs in Europe. So
they say shooters are going to shoot.
No doubt.
Doesn't matter. Shooters are going to shoot.
So it just kind of comes down to like, what are you looking for within that? But again, like to just circle back on what you're talking about. First, it was the idea in my mind. First, it was the idea that the continent of Africa produces big fellas. But then I think now that's being proven wrong with just the different levels of guys in the NBA with African roots, but also just throughout college basketball at all levels. You see that it's not just 7-footers. It's people from all over that play all different positions.
And I will add, even if they are 7 foot, don't mean that they don't have the skill. Because I've seen some of these South Sudanese guys, the Malian guys, Senegalese guys that are playing NCAA, and these guys are 6'11", 7 foot tall with wing skills and shooting and driving and stuff. It's actually really remarkable. It's really exciting. Why don't you Why don't you talk about the first visit to Rwanda? Because we're here in the BAL during this week, so you would be like a good testimony for what you saw maybe four years ago, to where it has grown now.
Yeah, no doubt. Well, I first came to Rwanda when I was 14 years old. My godfather is from here, so I was able to one of my dad's really good friends. He's from here, and so I've now seen it. I'm 31 now, so I've seen Rwanda more than half of my life. So that's kind of then sparked my interest to then come back from my first time here, but then also until the first season of the ball. And I was here year one for the BAL, and it was COVID. It was locked down. It was spacing on the seats. I still think it's funny because a couple years ago you'd still see the X's on the seats where you couldn't sit from the first season.
Even around not just in the arena, but you step into an elevator and stuff.
It's still the X on the ground. And so the first year, man, the first season was awesome. Like I just like being here, but also knowing it was going to be here. I was engaged. There wasn't many people here, but obviously with COVID, but also I don't think there are many people here due to the fact that I don't think that people really knew about it. You know, like fast forward to today, and I think especially in the country of Rwanda for sure, but on the continent of Africa and the hoop scene, people really know about it.
What about back home? This is interesting. Me, I've been living overseas now for the last 14 years or so, and I'm always interested. I'm kind of disconnected to actually what's going on back in the States. But now that we're operating in Rwanda, what do people back in the U.S. think about the BAL? Are they aware of that? Or they understand that there's an African NBA going on? Or
I think it's a little bit of both, yes and no. Like, I don't want to say 50-50 because I'm not really sure. I think people within the basketball community, if you really know your stuff, you know about this because of the talent first, but then the production behind it, the people that are behind it, because obviously, like, if you know the NBA, you know Luol Deng, and then if you know Luol Deng, you know about the BAL, or if you know Masai, you know, like, within that. But, I still think there's room to grow in terms of the publicity of it in the States. And then just kind of, connecting to that, Visit Rwanda is a sponsor of the LA Clippers now. And, and so it's like Visit Rwanda sponsors the LA Clippers, or they have a partnership, and they also have a partnership with the BAL. So I hope that, and I think it will, be able to bridge the gap of, the basketball community in the U.S., knowing about the BAL, but then also just the normal person, as the normal person in Minnesota, for my case, knows about the NBA. They might not know players and coaches and schedules, but at least they know it's an entity, it's a thing going on.
For sure. This morning, I went down to the LDK gymnasium here in Kigali, and we have 6 of our Azomco women players participating in the Ball for Her camp. So they had the whole week of this experience, and I'm just really, really excited and grateful for them to get that experience, because one thing that's really important, and I find I have to applaud them, when the BAL comes to town, the reason why it's growing so rapidly is because it's very comprehensive. It's engaging to different communities that maybe are in or outside the game of basketball. For example, I mentioned the women's BAL Ball for Her camp. They have a coaching clinic, they have a referee clinics, they have a tech summit, they have all types of policies and governance and opens of courts and stuff. Then they also go in and grab the community through young leaders and stuff like that. We're surrounded by business and entrepreneurship. So it's a very holistic approach, and that way here, when the BAL comes to town, everybody knows it, because we're all being engaged through some medium or form. What about, how have you seen the growth of BAL, and on this trajectory, where do you think that it's going to go in terms of the international impact?
I've seen it grow tremendously, and then I also think that it has so much more growth that can happen to it, man. Like, it's awesome. It makes me happy to see it. Like I said, year one, nobody really being in the gym because of, like I said, I think the main reason, the attendance restrictions due to COVID-19, but then also just the fact of the matter that it was a tough time for the world, and people just not really knowing about the BAL as it is today. Good things take time, right? And year one, you got to get it off the ground, you got to get it going, you got to move through the growing pains that I'm sure internally they've had. And I'm still sure that they're having growing pains within year 6 now here in Kigali, but on the outside looking in, it's way better. like I said, in terms of the talent, the production, the notoriety across the board, like you said, within the basketball community, but also, as you mentioned, the Tech Summit, or the just different things going on here that, maybe directly don't have anything to do with hoops. And then you're able to kind of tie it all together. And again, it's like, it's grown in these now 6 seasons, and I think you give it another 6, and it's gonna grow even more than what it has in these couple years.
Interesting. So you coach back in the U.S. and there's obviously different styles. I played for 12 years professional basketball around the world, and I knew that when you go into a different league, like Europe or South America or in the Middle East, they have these different types of styles of play. For you've coached in Rwanda now when you were with in the Division II, the Titans team, yeah?
Yep, I coached with the Kigali Titans in the Division II the year that we won the Division II, and then we're able to go to Division I. And then actually 2 years prior to that, I coached in Division I with IPRC Musanze, who's no longer a team, but up in the north.
Up in the north, okay, yeah. So my question would be like, when you're coaching, you're putting together strategies, what have you noticed as different or particular to the African style of basketball? Is there something that you can kind of hone on in and say, like this style, we'll just use for Rwanda for the example, these guys are excelling at this. And then we can maybe say, but they're lacking that.
No doubt. I think the style of play is fast and physical. 2 words to describe it. It's fast and it's really physical. The pace in which I think people play here in an overall scheme is within the transition, and the ball moves quick. And then the physicality, the bigger guys, stronger guys, women as well too, but just more so speaking on that side. It's physical, especially block to block. It's physical. FIBA referees are different than the U.S. referees in terms of rules and how the game is called. I think here, the biggest thing is the physicality and like the athleticism behind these players, whether that be a point guard all the way up to a center. And I think at the grassroots level of it all is the decision making within the game, right? The IQ. The IQ of it, the decision making within different scenarios and situations that you're placed in on the court, playing at advantages and just kind of figuring out, now I think just like moving forward, figuring out at the youngest level what's the best way to teach decision making. And I think people can do that a lot of different ways. Skill can come relatively quick. If a player's committed and they're coming to the gym or coming to the court, you can grow someone's skill quickly, relative. But when it comes to the decision making, that takes longer time.
Do you think you can only really do that through experience?
Like experience? I think you got to play. I think you have to play. And I think coaches across the world need to put their players, whether that be 10-year-olds, whether that be high schoolers, whether that be college players, and then up into the professional level, coaches need to put their players in decision-making situations. And I think that because you can always learn, you can always continue to grow your game. Point guards can always be better at making decisions all the way down to the center. You can always make better decisions. And then you can make better decisions as a player, which then contributes to you making better decisions as a team, as a unit, playing within those advantages, trying to figure out how to play within that.
Yeah, it's one of something that we really kind of prided Azomco's basketball teams is player development, and we understand that player development takes time. We have lots of young players that we've had since the Division II team who are on our roster now in the big leagues in the top tier of the Rwanda. Why? Because we're giving them a chance to develop. Whereas most other teams that go buy players in the open market, where we're actually trying to develop them from the bottom line. So I've seen, like in the last two seasons, as Azomco being in Division I, of guys coming into themselves, especially like after the first year. There's 2 legs in the season. The first leg, there's a lot of mistakes, a lot of the uncharacteristics, turnovers and missing shots and stuff. Is because they're probably in fear. They don't have that experience. Even in the second leg, shots start going in and they come down, they're slapping the floor. They have more confidence. Going into our second season, we have players who just barely were scratching the surface in their first year. Now they're averaging double digits in the Rwandan league, and they're just 20, 21 years old, you know. So we kind of really prided ourselves for talent development and giving players a playing opportunity. Last question I wanted to ask you was about many hundreds of kids, African kids from all around the world. They message us on Instagram, they message us on social media. We want you to take me to America. We want you to take it to the USA. And there's so much stuff that's happened. In the last 4 years, we've actually placed 4 ex-players from Azomco to the US. 1 went to the prep school, 1 went to high school, and 2 went to junior colleges. And then we also have 3 players who have been called up to their national teams. Right, so again, providing players opportunity. But for the kids who, it seems like a lot of them are in a rush, and again, we talked about the circumstances, to get out of what the situation that they're in. Can you provide some advice or some insight as to what that process will look like? Okay, because I'd say before you can go to college, you need to go to high school. Before you go to the NBA, you need to probably go to college. Before you play Division I, you need to probably play Division II. You know, we can't miss steps. So all the kids and the youth athletes that are around listening to this podcast in Africa, what can you tell them about not skipping steps and like preparing themselves to transition into maybe eventually getting to the US?
Absolutely. I think the biggest thing within that, it's really cloudy. There's a lot going on within, from the college standpoint, the recruiting process, right? But then the process of getting a player from, let's just say Rwanda, a person from Rwanda to the US, there's a lot of steps within that, right?
Yeah.
And so again, it's not just like, you know, we have the privilege to be able to, hey, we can get on a flight and just go.
Yeah.
Some people aren't, you know, they don't have that privilege to do so.
Visa restrictions,
exactly.
immigration statuses, yeah.
Yep. And then right now, with the administration coming in like to the U.S., it's even harder for some of these African countries.
We don't have to hide any of the names. Trump.
No, Trump, for sure. You know, so
You're killing our basketball, man. Leave us alone.
We need the hoops. So within that, though, you know, I think the first thing is you need a passport.
Yeah.
You know, within that, there's a lot of people that I've spoken to or like have maybe tried to recruit grassroots here that don't even have the passport. And you know, that's the biggest document you need to travel the world with. And then from there, you need the visa. And then to receive now, I guess, high school and college, to get a visa to the U.S., the F1, there's a lot of sub-steps that you have to take. You have to have a high school degree or to go to college, or you have to be proficient in English, which takes, you know, I mean, if you are proficient in English, it takes time and money to take the test and to extend that and make sure you have all that stuff done. You know, I think about a time we recruited a kid who was the leading scorer of the U19 World Cup in I want to say 2022 or 3.
From which country?
He's from Madagascar. His name is Matias Mamadi. And there was a lot of steps for him to come to the U.S. as a Malagasy. He's also French, so we were able to kind of work with him and work with the French passport. But there was a lot of steps to be able to get him from being in France as a Malagasy to the U.S. And I just think about that happens on a day-to-day. It's happened on a day-to-day with me in terms of recruiting. When I was at Seward County, we brought in 14 international kids in 2 years, and 10 of them were from Africa, whether that be straight from the continent or they were already in the U.S. and we were able to get them to the junior college. So I've had to assist in all different types of steps and processes and disappointments too at that. Like, you know, I've been involved with kids getting their visas denied, and you know, selfishly I want them to come and play, but also like the bigger picture is that we want to provide these kids opportunities within basketball. And so back to the DMs, back to the calls, it's like, if I could and you would, I would love to provide everybody the opportunity. But with that being said, at the college level, the professional level, it's selective, and just in terms of like, you know, if I'm working for a guy who doesn't like this player, that's just what it is. I can't take you there. Like, spots are limited at times.
Absolutely.
You know, and so again, it's just like, I think, you know, the BAL in itself is a big motor for the fact of the matter that you don't have to leave Africa like international water. You don't have to go to the U.S. to have success with basketball.
Yeah.
You know, you can grow here. You can play in now more established leagues. You can play across the continent in leagues like the BAL, or at the national level with the World Cup, the in Afrobasket and so forth type competitions. Again, we use Jean-Jacques Boissy as an example. He grew up here. He played here. He developed here. And then when he was older, he got the opportunity to go showcase his ability in the G League or in the summer league, and then had draft options for the G League international draft. So it's like, I think my advice would be to understand that you can still have success being where your feet are, being present where you are, getting better, doing your schoolwork, because that's always important for high school and the college level. And then from there, if an opportunity knocks, just be ready in terms of, if you got to go, you got to go. And then from there, being around good people that are going to guide you in the right way and help you through that process.
For sure. And as you were thinking, I was thinking about I don't know the young lady's name, but she was the first pick in the WNBA draft. She was from Kenya.
Okay.
And they talked about her story. She only started playing basketball 6 years ago. And because she was tall, they spent 4 attempts at trying to get her a visa to the U.S.
Yeah. I think
so imagine you denied once, denied twice, denied 3 times. And on the 4th time, I think it was after the 4th.
Yeah.
So she got denied 4 times. And then she got the opportunity, and she became the #1 draft pick in the WNBA.
No doubt. Be present, be where your feet are, and good things can happen. I think 6 is the record that I've heard about in terms of times being denied in the embassy, man. And it's nasty work. It's not right, in my opinion. But I don't make those decisions.
Yeah, for sure. So before we let you go, my brother, which country on the continent of Africa you think has the most potential for basketball development?
Man, that's a good question. I think right now, in terms of infrastructure, in terms of the time being put in, I'm going to say Rwanda. Okay. In terms of talent, you're thinking about the Senegalese, you're thinking about Cameroonians, you're thinking about Guineas, you're thinking about Mali, South Sudan. So I don't think I can really give you one. And I think there's players out there that haven't even been found in terms of maybe even haven't touched a basketball. So it's just like across the board in the continent of Africa, the opportunity is endless for the potential of growth and for players to get better and grow as players and have opportunities, whether that be in the U.S. or through international competitions, grassroots basketball. You stumped me with that question.
No, it's all good. It's all good. It's a loaded question.
It's loaded,
There's so much
sure.
talent. There's so much talent. But I appreciate you coming on the show,
Absolutely,
my brother.
man. Love.
Yeah, appreciate it. You guys. That's episode 50 in the books, the Think Global podcast here in Kigali. Make sure you subscribe to this YouTube platform as we're trying to grow and talk about international basketball all across the world. We're over here at O&A Production Studio in the heart of Kigali. Until then, you guys, we'll see you next time. Peace.
Think global, that's our call. Azomco leading.